Heavy Rain is a cinematic psychological thriller developed by Quantic Dream and published by Sony, with the term cinematic being used in an almost literal sense. It is essentially an interactive movie and the video game equivalent of a choose-your-own-adventure. It was released on PlayStation 3, February 23, 2010. Sony tends to lean towards epic, story-driven single-player experiences, which isn't a bad thing. It's great having different types of experiences to choose from, and I always appreciate anything that's different. But there isn't much gameplay here. What it lacks in gameplay, though, is made up in story. You take the roles of 4 unrelated characters, who are somehow tied together by this origami killer who is on the loose. It reminds me of LA Noire, exploring and interacting with items and people in a predetermined section of area. While LA Noire only has one outcome to the story, Heavy Rain gives you multiple events to make decisions upon, dictating the direction of the story, and eventually the end, of which there are many. I looked up how many, and one person mentions 17. Another says 22. Someone else says 7 endings with multiple epilogues equaling 22. And another says 6 different endings for each character, equaling a total of 24. Either way, there are lots of outcomes for this story. A story I found myself thinking about when I wasn't playing, so it's definitely compelling. The simple analog stick commands, sometimes combined with a specific speed of movement, used to interact with items is a small step up from the usual button-press QuickTime mechanic, and adds more urgency during hectic QuickTime sequences. It seems they captured quite a bit of sequences for each QuickTime event, because the flow changes depending on how well or poorly you're doing. You could be doing poorly in a fight, for example, then bring it back and do well, miss a couple more commands and so on, and the game stitches together a coherent sequence based on your performance. The controls are simple but flawed. Hold R2 to make the character walk, while directing them with the left stick. The camera changes very much like Resident Evil PS1, but moving forward isn't defaulted to up on the controller like that game, so using the analog stick while the camera changes often results in a misdirection. Press L1 for an alternate view of the area, which complicates the controls further. Say what you will about the first Resident Evil's controls, but they were perfect. Use the right stick to move the character's head, and hold L2 to see the character's thoughts. This is used to give hints and help guide the player. The visuals are impressive. Sometimes I don't realize how powerful the PS3 is until I play a first-party game. The water effects, which play a large part in this game, are handled excellently. From ripple effects, the rain falling, and water running down characters' faces. Speaking of which, the character faces are excellent as well. I wish they looked this good in LA Noire. A lot of light blooming gives a soft cinematic sheen, allowing the water and rain to stand out, and helps light darker scenes. I love how you can replay each chapter, choosing whether to save or not to save its progress, potentially changing the course, and having a mishmash of scenarios for each character if you do choose to save. Overall, Heavy Rain is definitely a different experience, with its main focus being above all else its compelling story. For action-adventure buffs, this isn't likely to hold your attention. For anyone who has patience and enjoys slower-paced, psychological thrillers and lots of storytelling, this is for you. 8 out of 10. Your smallest decisions can change everything. The origami killer has taken a new victim. In a terrorized city, the hunt for a child will lead 4 unconnected people to ask the same question. How far would you go to stop a killer? play all 4 roles in this psychological thriller where every action you take has consequences. How this story unfolds is entirely up to you.
Miroslav Korda?
Yeah?
Lieutenant Carter Blake, I'd like to ask you some questions.
Shit, don't just stand there, he's gonna get away! Ah! Hey man, watch it, dude! Hey, watch it, man! Whoa!